So today's focus area is for loop, right? For loop. So for loop is relatively simple. All the concepts we have learned in the while is gonna be applicable here also. Now, as I told you, first thing is to realize where to use this, right? Should you use for loop? Should you use while loop? In majority of the cases, you can solve the same problem in both ways. Okay. Suppose I tell you that find the sum of 10 numbers, or forget what sum. Let me tell you. Just say I want you to tell first 10 numbers, right? I want you to speak or print first 10 numbers. Let's not do any operation. Print first 10 numbers. This is the problem, right? Print first 10 numbers. Okay. As I always say, anytime you solve a coding question, forget about Python, forget about Java. Just focus on the question itself. Focus or treat programming question like a puzzle. How would you solve a puzzle? What's your logic? What's your algorithm? If you're not very sure, draw flow chart. See if your algorithm or logic is working. Okay. Once you're very clear that yes, this is going to work, then you start writing code. And that is the reason why I always, teach, flow chart and algorithm and trace table, etc. That helps you become a really good programmer. It may be boring, it may be tedious, you may have to spend more time in solving one question, but you focus on fundamentals. Once you become comfortable, the rest of the things become very, very easy. So when we say print first 10 numbers, the two things that we want to look at it. One is, remember our input, processing, and output. Every question has learned to identify this and think in these terms. When you look at a question, what's your input, what's your output, and what is the processing? Okay. So for print first 10 numbers, right? And there are two inputs right now. One is starting number, your starting point, and second is ending point. Your starting point is 1, ending point is 2. We realize that or not, it says first. That's what defines it as your starting number, and it is an input. The input could be of two types, and that's why you have to read your question very carefully and understand. When you say input, the first input is very explicit. 10 numbers, 20 numbers, 30 numbers. It can be print first n numbers, where n is the number user will input. So it is very explicit input. When you say print first n numbers, it is very explicit. You are asking user for a picture that n could be she may like to print only first 10 numbers. And Namrata may like to print first 30 numbers. It depends on the individual. So that's an explicit variable where you're gonna ask user to enter a value. But in some cases, like what I said is, even in that case, when you say first n, the first is also an input that tells you that you start with number 1 and then go up to n. So first is an input. You would need a variable to store that value. And it's important to remember that it is an implicit input. That means you don't have to ask user, but to your program, that's still an input. Okay. Now with that, when you say explicit, explicit is like first n, and implicit is 1. That's your input first. That's your implicit input. Once we identify input, this input has to be processed in some way to give you the output. So output is we are printing the number. Print the number. And how do you print the number? You have to use a loop. The reason is you are asking go up to 10, and every number from 1 to n, whatever you do with first number, you're going to do with second number, with third number, and fourth number, and fifth, and sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th, or nth number. So in that case, every number, whatever processing you do, has to be repeated. And that's the key thing in dealing with loops. You always focus on just one number. Let's take real life example. Suppose you're again standing on you're the ticket collector in a bus. You are standing in the bus, and every person, what you do is asking the same thing. Show me the ticket. If the person doesn't have ticket, then buy a ticket. And they give you some money, you give them change. But this set of tasks of checking the ticket, and the person doesn't have the ticket, then giving him the ticket. That task is irrespective of whether it is 10 people or 20 people or just one person in the bus. If the bus is empty, late night bus, 11 o'clock, just one person is riding the bus. Ticket collector still does the same thing, but it does only with one person. But in the daytime, in a rush hour, ticket collector may do it for 1,000 people in different schedules, right? But the key thing is to identify what will you do with one person and then put it in a loop. Rather than thinking about a loop, focus on dealing with one person. And that makes life really, really easy when you're dealing with loop. And we'll take some examples and we'll see that. Okay. So in the loop, as I said, in this case, all we are doing is we are saying, okay, starting with number equal to 1, we are print that number. This is what we are primarily dealing with, the one number. And then this thing, these two lines has to be repeated, right? For 10 numbers, 20 numbers, whatever, doesn't matter. Now, remember I told you, you can do this with loop, for loop or while loop. Let's first talk about while loop, since we have already learned while loop. Okay? In the while loop, what are you doing? Suppose I asked you, you are at the gate. You're a teacher. This is teacher. You're the teacher. This is your classroom. And every student that comes in, you are asking, what's your name? What's your roll number? And you are taking attendance. Okay. If the user is not in this roster, user is not in your attendance sheet, then you are saying this is not your classroom. So you come, ask his name, ask his roll number, check in your register. If it's there, you let the student come in. Dealing with this one student, suppose now you have to do it for 10 students. What are you doing? This class has only 10 seats. You can take only 10 students in this class. What are you doing? You're coming, checking, and you're saying, okay, go. If the person is, I'm drawing it in red, the person does not belong to this class. What you're saying? You're rejecting him. If it is in the class, I will put it in blue, you're accepting him. If the student belongs to this class, you accept him. And in your head, you're counting. Because remember, you have only 10 people here, 10 seats available. So you need to keep a counter in your head saying, okay, let's go check. Namrata, here, Namrata is in. Next student, Sakshi, and you are keeping a counter here, 1. Sakshi, 2. SHI, right? Anuja, 3, so on. As soon as it becomes 10, then anything, whether the student is right, belongs to a class or not, you can say, sorry, you're late. We had only 10 seats. How could you do that? Because you're keeping a track. Now, this can be done in 2 ways. Either you know your number 10, but really what is happening is in your head, you're always checking the number right now. Did it reach 10 or not? Right? You're saying 1. Is this 10? No. 2, 10? No. 3, 10? No. 10, 10. Yes. 11. 11 is more than 10. So you are going to decline him. That is the only way you can say, sorry, you belong to this class, but we are already full in capacity. Right? Same principle. Just think in the steps. Same principle applies in programming also. Right? What we are going to do is we are saying, okay, let's keep a counter. We'll say I equal to 0. And from here, I'm going to keep a counter. As I do something, I'm going to move. And I'm checking, is this I less than equal to 10 or not? Since I'm starting with 0, I will check up to 9 because 0 to 9 is 10. Or you start with 1, then I check it for 10. Doesn't matter. If you're starting with 1, then you go up to 10. If you're starting with 0, you go up to 9 or less. 9 or less, right? Or I can also say I less than 10. Rather than less than equal to, I can say I less than 10. As long as I is less than 10, I'm starting with I equal to 0, I'm fine. If I want to include, I want to say I less than equal to, then I should go only up to 9. And we have already seen that learned that how to frame conditions based on the text. Irrespective of that, you need a condition that will decide, I'll say while I is less than 10, less than equal to, and we start with I equal to 1. My first counter before I start processing, I'm going to say I is 1, that's my first student, and I is going to be less than equal to 10. And when you solve coding questions, you have to pay attention whether you are starting with 1 or 10, and this number, what is the condition here? Okay, but let's say, okay, let's say that you are starting with, let me erase this part, so that code is clear. Okay, let's say we start with I equal to 1, and we say while I is less than equal to 10, I want to print I, and then that means you admitted somebody, right? The class you admitted. This is nothing but I admitted, and then you want to increase your counter and say I equal to I plus 1, so that next time this loops at some point in time will become, because you started with 1, if you don't increase the value of I, then you are always in the infinite loop. But this condition will never ever be false. 1 is always less than 10. So you have to increase the counter. And remember, I was telling you, when you do this, in your head, somewhere you are keeping a track anyway. What are you doing? Anytime you admit 1, you increase yourself by 1. So you must do that in your code also. And this is how you will simply print less than 10. But this is using a condition. This is using I made this as a indefinite loop. But Python provides you a better and easy way of doing this by simply saying, you know what, you can create all this and you can simply use a for loop. You don't have to build a condition. Why? Because we know upfront that there are 10 people. So why should I check a condition every time? So what does it do? Python says, let's create a list. List will have 10 numbers. So let's say list. And list, how do you create in Python? We'll learn more about data structure next week. But list would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There is a list of 10 numbers. And all I have to do is to iterate this list, go over every item in this list to create my loop. So Python says for, this is the syntax, for number n in this list. This is the syntax. For some variable in list and column. This list is your list. Basically, we are telling that, hey, iterate each item one by one. First time n will be 1. Next time n will be 2. Third time n will be 3, and so on. You are giving chance to every student. This is your list of student, and you are a teacher. You are asking, hey, each student in this queue, come here, right? You are giving chance to every student one by one. So n represents one student at a particular moment of time in that iteration. If you are third time, then that student is third in your list, right? So you are saying for n in this list, I want to print whatever is the n at that point of time. And n is a variable. It's a generic number that represents one entry in that list. So once you figure out what to do with n, all you have to do is to repeat it in the loop, right? So I'm simply printing n. And right now, what is the good thing is I don't have to increment n. I don't have to create any condition because Python knows that this is a list, and you know list has a definite start and definite end. Python knows how many entries are in this list. So you really don't, Python keeps the counter for you. You don't have to do this. All you have to do is to just say for something in that list, for X, for A, for B, name, class, list of animals, list of flowers, for each flower in that entry, in that list. Basically, in indirect, say for each flower in my favorite flower list, right? For each flower, you're processing the flower, what to do with that flower. And whatever you're doing, do it for all flowers. So that N is key. It represents that particular entry in the list. So far, so good. If you understand this, everything is very easy. You don't have to keep your own counter. You're processing simply a list. So the key is building this list. We will learn more about data structure in next class. But for now, understand that list is created using a square bracket. But then suppose we say this number changes and say, you know what, I want to process from 1 to 100. Then now you have a choice. Are you going to say 1, 2, 3, like this up to 100? That's not an efficient way of creating a list. Remember, Python provides a function to create a dynamic list like this. The function is called range. So rather than writing here, I can say list equal to, rather than creating this static list, I can say list equal to range. Range is a function in Python and it generates a list. The first parameter in this function is your starting number, which is 1, your ending number 11, and in the step of 1, right? You're hopping by 1, 1, 2, 3. That's your step. So the last number is step. This one is start, and this one is end. In the end, Python goes up to 11 but does not include 11. That's why I put it 11. If I want 1 to 10, I will give 11 because I know Python will exclude 11, the last number. Okay, this will give me a list. And now I can iterate this list the way I want. And I say for L in list and colon, whatever you want to do with L. Let's say print L right now. Simple. So rather than creating a static list like 1 to 10, you can use a range when you are dealing with numbers. You can say range equal to this. If it is a list of names, then I can't use names. Then I have to say list equal to, this. And list I have to say, Anuja, right? I can say Vaishnavi, and so on. It's a list of strings because it's a name. So it's a list of a string. And then I want to process and say hello to every one of it. I'll create a list here, not using range, because range is for numbers. So I have to create a static list like this. And then I'll keep iterating and say print hello, whatever L. Right? Good. So the next thing, once you understand now that you know how the syntax of for loop, you also understand how to process. Usually you always use for list in a list, on a list. So you say for for X in that list, for name in list of names, for flower in list of flowers, right? That's it. And then whatever you do. So let's take a couple of examples and see how does this help us in how does this help us in some real type problem. But before I go there, I want to again show you how do you represent this for loop in a using our flowchart. So flowchart is important. I always talk about flowchart. So flowchart, we don't have any such concept of representing this while. So we use this shape to represent. Suppose loop is coming here. We will say for X in names. Names is a names list. And then we say process your entry X, whatever it could be, print a name, whatever you want to do it, right? We can say print X on the name of process, print X. And then, of course, you need arrow. And then you go back and process next entry. This is how. And once a list is enough, list all the entries in the list are done, you continue whatever you want to do it here onwards. This is how you donate, or this is how denote a list in a flowchart. You use this shape. I honestly forgot what is the name of this shape. Okay. 4 to 6, a hexagon, a rectangular hexagon or something. Okay. This is how you process it. Okay. So now let's say we want to, one interesting thing here. So suppose now we say we want to deal with a string. Let's say if I say for x in hello, print x. Anuja, what do you think it will print? Or anyone? Can someone answer? What will this print? I did not give a list. I give just a string. Sakshi, Sajanya, Swapnali, anyone?
Hello will print.
It will print hello. Okay. Remember, I said in the for loop, you always use a list, but now I have given a word called hello. This is not a list. It is just a single string. What will it print? Who else think that it will print hello? Or anybody has different answer?
H.
What is that?
H.
Why do you think it will print H? What is your logic? It's okay. Speak up. Don't be afraid to speak. You know, it can be right or it can be wrong. Who cares? At least you responded. That's more important than being right or wrong. What do you think? The answer H is correct. I just want to, I'm interested in finding out what is the logic, right? So the reason it will print H is because hello, even though is not actually a list, actually in another way it is a list because a string is a list of characters. So Python automatically converts this into like this, comma, E, comma, L, comma, another L, comma, and then O, comma, like this. Right? Python automatically converts this into a list. Why? Because a string is a list of characters. And basically this becomes for x in this list. And so now if you print x, first time x will be H. Next time it will be E. Next time it will be L, L, and O. In each iteration. If you draw a trace table for this, let's say trace table, say we are going to track value of x because x is a variable here. The first time x is H, next time it's E, next time L, L, and O, because hello is a list of characters.